looked at what does traditional learning do, what does today's e-learning do, and what does virtual reality do. And they found comparing those, specifically between the traditional classroom learning to virtual reality, people were 3.75 times more emotionally connected to the content.
Where does the idea stem from? Is it a lot of just failing and mistakes right from the get-go?
Yes. There's studies or research papers out there about where this could head. And one of the main examples a lot of people use is by the way that you walk in virtual reality, researchers can tell to a certain degree of accuracy if you're going to have dementia. The internet and technology is going to continue to evolve. So what is the next evolution of the internet? VR was 4 times faster to learn a skill than in the traditional
a 4-year course is cut down to a year.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to take a quick break from our show to say a massive thank you and a big shout out to one of our amazing sponsors, Dave DiStefano. Dave is a mortgage broker with over 13 years in the business, and Dave has a great rapport with a network of lenders, including big banks, credit unions, trust companies, financial institutions, and private funds. He will work on your behalf to help you find the best mortgage with the most agreeable terms and the lowest interest rate. After meeting Dave many times and having great discussions with him, he provides a level of confidence and comfort in knowing that he is going to take care of you. If you want to reach out to Dave, you can find his office on 6293 Thoroldstone Road in Niagara Falls. For more information or to make an appointment for any of your mortgage needs, call 905-933-1090. That's 905-933-1090. And thanks for listening. Back to the show.
What's going on, Meeting Gold listeners? It's Chris Battaglia, 416 Coffee. Use the coupon code Meeting Gold to get 10% off your first order at 416 Coffee. Enjoy the show.
I guess I was kind of lucky. But, relationships in the industry, right? That really helps.
For sure.
But anyways, Evan Sitler, that's how I say your name, right?
Yeah, Sitler Bates. To please my mom, yeah.
Evan Sitler Bates is joining us on the Meeting Gold podcast today. And Evan, you run a company called XpertVR. You're the CEO, and you have a team of over 10.
Yeah, we're up to 15 plus 4 co-op students right now. So
15 plus 4 co-op students. It's incredible. Actually, you were building out a co-op program, I think, on LinkedIn. I saw that.
Yeah. So completely different from having co-op students, but basically it's our idea for the future of education, kind of in a way. Right now, each school, they'll come to us or they'll come to any education provider, and that school will pay that education provider, and then the next school comes in and pays you. And for us, that means recreating the same thing over and over again. So if we can bring schools together in a co-op project where they all fund the development of some sort of simulation, then we can share that with everyone. Then we have a product we can sell, and it's just win-win-win across the board.
I love it. So let's figure out what that product is, because you're in a very interesting industry, and one that I guess I don't know too much, but do you have a lot of competition in this area?
In this region?
In this specific space that you're in Ontario, Canada, I guess.
Yeah, Ontario, not too much. There's a couple of companies. We're kind of friends with those companies as well, though. The main thing is that we're solely in the education, post-secondary space, whereas a lot of companies in our space are in the training enterprise type space. So that's kind of how we differentiate ourselves, or one of the ways. Did
you niche yourself in that area over time, or was it something that you set out to do right away?
It was over time. It was kind of, myself and my business partner and a lot of people in our company are from Brock University, so we were kind of connected in there, being part of the environment, and that kind of got us our first clients in the post-secondary space, so it kind of grew into that. That being said, we've kind of found our passion in that space of how can we revolutionize education, so yeah.
What I love is that education is one of the things that has not been changed in hundreds of years.
Oh, yes.
And I think you see that.
Oh, for sure.
But you coming in with the way that you're coming in, you are encouraging education systems to adapt to technology and use it as a tool, not hinder from using it, right?
Exactly.
So I want to know a little bit before we get into your opinions on hot takes with Evan, right?
Yeah.
I want to know what you provide specifically, like exactly for dummies, what is XpertVR?
Yeah, so we provide 3 services or products. Number 1 is consulting. So we're going into a school. They're like, we want to start using virtual reality in our classes. And we're like, okay, you might want to buy stuff off the shelf. We'll like tell you what are the right software to purchase, what's the right hardware, and put together a whole strategy for you. So that's kind of like number 1. Number 2 is our custom development, and that's kind of been our bread and butter for the past 5+ years that we've been running the business, where we go in and somebody's like, here's the problem that we're having. We can't teach search and rescue for firefighters because it's very dangerous. We can't get access to the facilities to train on that on a regular basis. So we develop that in virtual reality, and that's owned by the school. And now that's kind of like a differentiator for them where they're training their students more regularly in a realistic environment. Then third is now our products. And so with what we've done with firefighting at Conestoga College, as well as policing at other colleges, we've turned those into products where now we can go to schools directly, and instead of having to pay us 6 figures to develop a simulation, they pay like $100 per student, and now it kind of replaces a textbook or is supplementary to a textbook.
Interesting. So the cost saving benefit on doing something like this is massive. I mean, how much would it cost for somebody to do search and rescue, like in person, get a helicopter and, you know, like all that stuff when they can do it in VR?
Yeah, so like search and rescue, how it's done today for like building fires, there's facilities that are these big concrete buildings. You've probably seen the one like under the bridge near downtown St. Catharines. Yeah, so they set those on fire. They like throw a bunch of wood or hay in there and set it on fire. So there's obviously a big environmental cost, and there's the cost of having all the trainers go out there, run it, all of the materials of burning that, all of the water needed to put out those fires. The costs are huge to run that, even just on a daily basis. So what we do is put all of that into virtual reality, and you pay for the headset. It's like $600 for the headset, and then $100 for a year license. And now that's $700 per student, and the hardware can be reused year after year, is now replaces all of that search and rescue training. It replaces most of it. Still, now the students go like once a year and can do that training live, but now they have those skills and are already prepared to like actually train and up their skills when they're in the live environment.
So let me ask you this, and I'm going to hit you with a challenging question right out the get-go.
Do it.
But I know how much you know your industry and how much you just the research you do on it, so I didn't think you ever had any problem with it. But the quality of training from VR to in person, that's probably a big question that you get asked. Like, are you going to train people as good as what we would train people? Mm-hmm. Number 2, how in the world do you understand the training platforms that they already have and then build that in a virtual reality? I mean, is it as easy as, hey, send us the PDFs that you have and then we'll put it into something?
Yeah, like that's definitely step 1. It's like, send us all the content you can send us. But we, as our name is XpertVR, we understand we're the experts at VR. We're not the experts at everything else. And that's what we tell all of our clients. So when we're going in and we're working on a custom project, or if we're working on a product, we're making sure that we're bringing in usually 5 or more content experts who are like retired firefighters, on-service firefighters, professors, and they're meeting with us on a weekly to monthly basis to make sure development is following all the standards they have to follow, and it is as realistic as possible.
A part of the specific company that you may be working with? Usually.
So yeah, like when we're working with Conestoga College, they're one of our biggest clients. We're working with their professors and the firefighters that they work with. But when we're developing our own products, we'll like reach out to any connections that we can to bring them in. Yeah.
Interesting. So you are just understanding the industry as you go. So your knowledge in a lot of industries is probably a lot stronger.
Yeah, it's definitely gone up. Like 2 months ago, I got to go to the live fire training. I got fully suited up in all of the like PPE gear and all the safety gear and everything, and got to go into the fire, stand right beside the fire with all the firefighters. So like get to do those experiences and learn a lot from those types of things. So yeah, definitely learning a lot of each industry we go into.
Now the quality of training, I guess, is the quality of training dependent on the first thing that we literally just talked about, is how well do you understand?
Yeah, that's definitely number 1 in making sure all the developers understand the processes and that we have those content experts like available and involved so that they're giving good feedback. That's definitely one of the most important things. Number 2 is just making sure the environment looks realistic and the interactions that you're doing in that environment feel realistic. And so I'll be honest, like the hardware and the software isn't quite there yet where it's like, this feels exactly like real life. Like I can't actually touch a table in the virtual world and do things like that. That being said, going back to the firefighters as an example, one of the professors, he's been teaching at Conestoga College for 13 plus years. And he said that this was the most prepared students were going into that live fire training environment over his full 13 years of teaching. So it prepares you for the real world so that you are training in the real world safely and efficiently.
Okay, so I was going to challenge you with some questions around that, but it sounds like it is something that's definitely a viable option when training. My last devil's advocate question that I want to understand is, let's say you're combat training. Okay, do you do police? I saw you did.
We do crime scene and like de-escalation with police. We've stayed away from any like gun or taser handling because there's some great companies in that space and there's a lot of legalities around that. Yeah,
exactly. I'm sure there's a lot you have to deal with. Yeah. But okay, the de-escalation. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that for a second. Okay, somebody's running at you and you're training as the cop. The genuine fear you would feel in the situation compared to the genuine fear you feel in VR, is there a difference?
I would say there's definitely a difference. Like if somebody's running at you with a knife in real life, you're going to feel a little different than a virtual person running at you with a knife. That said, I know I keep going back to these fire examples, but I have a lot of them because we've been working on it a lot.
I want to know this. Yeah.
So like to use fire as an example again, we had a student going through our search and rescue simulation, and it's a 2-story building with a basement, or one of the environments is. And she went in, she was doing her like regular search and rescue procedure, doing great. And then she went into the basement, and as soon as she got to the basement, there was 4 victims laying there. And as a firefighter, you have a partner with you, and together you can bring out 1 victim at a time because you have to work together and make sure each other are like staying safe. There's a bunch of like protocols around that and everything. So she went in, she's like, I can only rescue 1 of these people, and started kind of having like a mini panic attack, or just like, what do I do in this scenario? And because of that, she forgot she was in the basement and then started thinking for whatever reason she was in the garage. So then she's trying to look for the door to get this victim out, and she can't find the door because she's
this is in VR.
In VR, yeah. And because she's not looking for the stairs, she's looking for a door. She can't find the way out. She ran out of air inside of our virtual simulation and had a small like panic attack and breakdown where we had to take her out of the headset because she was that emotionally connected to the content. And to throw a stat at you.
Throw it at me. Yeah. This is so fascinating to me.
There was a study done by PwC, and obviously, like I said, virtual reality isn't going to replace the real world, but they looked at what does traditional learning do, what does today's e-learning do, and what does virtual reality do. And they found comparing those specifically between the traditional classroom learning to virtual reality, people were 3.75 times more emotionally connected to the content. So because there's an avatar that you're actually having a conversation with, you can see their emotions, they're like animated and moving, and it's not just your peer that you're like having a joking like mock conversation with, you're that much emotionally more connected with the content.
So the way that I see it, you are not saying VR or technology in general. And we'll kind of get into, like, I know I want to talk about XpertVR today, but I also want to touch on just your opinion on certain subject matters, because there's a lot of misguided education out there, and you see it from the real world. Like, I had no idea that somebody could actually have a little mini panic attack in a VR. But then at the same time, I think about it, and I used to go in those VR rooms, play like zombies and stuff, and I'd genuinely be scared.
Oh yeah.
So like I see you play sometimes too, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how you do it.
Last year for my birthday, me and our management team, the 4 of us, we went to this arcade in Toronto, and it was like a zombie thing, and all 4 of us have like actual guns, and we're like standing back to back, and all of us were like screaming, and like,
it's amazing, eh? Yeah. It is really incredible. So I have a couple of questions for you just around the technology side, and this is more the workforce side, and I will come back to XpertVR in a second, but there's the idea that technology will displace workers. And VR has a part to play in that. Do you think that it will displace or disrupt that environment? And is it something that we can use as a tool, or will it be that disruption and that negative? Negative, I guess. Whoever's looking at it, because it's biased on both ends.
Yeah, there's a bunch of terms I'm going to like say, so we can dive into any of these, obviously. But I would say like, a lot of people might have heard of the metaverse and what that is. So I think for virtual reality, that's kind of the main thing that might disrupt jobs, where it's like, in this metaverse world, you could go into, for example, a Gucci store, and there would be a virtual sales associate there that's like showing you around and maybe knows your history of like what you like to shop for and knows a lot more information than a regular sales associate would. So like those types of jobs I could see being replaced by virtual reality. I wouldn't say too many like jobs are going to be replaced by VR necessarily. I think like AI is like a much bigger area to be replacing jobs. The way I look at virtual reality is like it's the tool to help people that have been displaced from a job. So if you're working some service job or you're working in a sales associate job that's now being replaced by technology, it might not have been the job that you loved that much or that you dreamed of doing as a kid. So now with virtual reality, and obviously there's the economic effects and you need to have the time to do this, but with virtual reality in the future, you could put on that headset and learn any job, any career that you want to go down, and you could do that from home for much cheaper than what college or university would cost today.
Just going to ask that because college, university, a lot of it is inaccessible to a lot of people, especially the lower class, like in poverty. Do you see us being able to cater education more towards a lower class area in North America that we can hopefully provide some cheaper education to, and they can still have the same opportunities?
Yeah, like I think in the end, it's still on a lot of these educational institutions to like adopt to the times and be like, well, if we lowered our prices and use these technologies that mean that we can be more efficient, then maybe we can bring more students on. The teachers aren't going to feel that pressure, and the students are getting a better experience. So I think like the institutions still have to be involved, and I hope that they will be involved, but definitely that is where it's heading. For example, we've partnered with Conestoga College, and they've built out a VR trailer. So it's this trailer with 25 headsets, I believe, inside of there, and they can drive it up north to community centers, gymnasiums, schools, and set up these 25 headsets so that they can bring in people from the community or just students to train or to learn about new careers. And so I see like having access to that at any time, having that headset in your house, you could, learn any skill that you want.
Interesting. Yeah. It's like the internet. Like people said, you could learn any skill you want because now you have YouTube and everybody's, you know what I mean? Like you can learn from YouTube. Do you honestly just see that as adapting into VR? Like,
100%.
Okay, interesting.
100%.
Because I think we're seeing currency, for example, right? We started with, trading, right? Bartering. Then we moved to coins, like gold and materials like that. Then we moved to a dollar figure. And now it's being questioned that we're moving to something technology based, right? So everything, it just seems like it's constantly adapting. Where do you see VR adapting in the education space overall? Like, do you have a big vision for it?
Yeah, like I see a future with virtual reality, and there's multiple things connected to this, but going back to that like metaverse term, I look at the metaverse as just the next iteration of the internet. You can go there, you can be social, be entertained, possibly go to work, but then as well go for education. So what we picture at XpertVR is becoming that education division of the metaverse, whether that's partnering with other companies or by ourselves. But with that, it would be a place where you could walk into this university setting, college setting, whatever it is, and then there's 100 or thousands of doors, and each door is a different career or a different skill. And then you can just walk through that door, and now you're in a mechanic shop, or you're in an office building, or you're in whatever career you want to go into, and you're now able to experience that and practice what you've been learning in school. And then once you're actually on the job, or you're trying to repair your car or whatever it is, that's where like augmented reality comes in, where now you take off your VR glasses or you hit a button on the side, and now you can see the real world, and it can layer instructions on top of the things that you're trying to do.
Okay, so there's a lot of potential, I guess you could say, for that kind of stuff, but then I'm going to be the guy that's the doubter.
Yeah.
So is there not a level like VR? I'm not actually holding this mug. I don't feel the weight of this mug. I don't feel the weight of a 25-pound sledgehammer that I have to hit into the ground to put nails in to build a railway track. Is that something that we can see come into VR? Because do you not feel that that's necessary in training individuals for certain things? Like I'm not going to be personally, I don't think I could be in construction. feeling the heat of the sun. I don't think that I just don't think that I could do that. There's other people that are, built better for that.
Yeah.
And constantly holding, lumber and bringing it to my,
job site,
whatever it is. So you get my point, right? What's your comment on that?
Yeah, so it's definitely an issue. I think there's two solutions that are being worked on. There's a software side and the hardware side. So on the software, if you look up a game called Boneworks, they're kind of done the best. So they've built a physics system, and so every developer has a physics system. And basically what that is it gives values of weight to objects within the virtual world. So in Boneworks, and actually in some of our simulations now, for example, you pick up an axe, and when you pick up that axe with one hand, it like automatically droops down because you can't hold an axe with one hand if you're holding it right at the end. So it like droops down and you can't swing it. So you need to grab it with two hands and actually do the correct action and motion to use that.
So that's an advancement. I mean, that's better than just picking it up with a pinky.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. And then, but the most exciting area, which is going to take a lot longer, is the hardware side. So they're suits that we've tested where you can feel like raindrops falling on you. You can feel temperature, and it's like a full body suit that you're feeling. There's gloves where it restricts your fingers so that if I went to grab around this, when I got to that position, it would stop my fingers. So then it would feel like I was actually holding something, because it's like kind of holding your fingers back. So it feels like you're holding an object.
Those must be pretty expensive.
Oh yeah. I think they're like $25,000 or something. Yeah. Crazy. But yeah, we've tested these technologies with some of our partners, or going down to conferences, and it's getting there. It's not there yet, but it's coming.
So am I going to invest $1 million into virtual training or VR right now? Or is it something that I should be more lenient on if it's something that's got to take a lot more time to develop, and there has to be a lot more mistakes and downfalls? And I guess, unfortunately in an innovative time that we're in, just like, I wasn't alive, but the 2000s, like around the 90s and the 2000s, when things really started, like the technology started to take off, a lot of companies failed because they wouldn't adapt.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like it's definitely a worry of some of our clients. That being said, virtual reality's technically been around for, I think it's like 60 years or something like that. Technically, it's really only like 5-10 years that it's started to be available to consumers and even enterprise. That said, like, we've been in the space for 5 years now, and we've continued to see more and more growth and more innovation, that it's kind of like it's at its point as an industry where it can't really fail because it's accepted by so many people. There's different companies like I can't remember, a couple different companies around the States where they've bought over 50,000 VR headsets to train their staff and have available. There's a school called Lindenwood University in the States that they no longer require students to pay for textbooks, but you have to buy a VR headset to be part of the school.
Really?
So yeah, it's there, and I would say, to your question of like, should you invest in it now? What should you do? It really depends on the company or organization that is asking that question. But
I guess the niche, sorry to cut you off.
No.
I just want to tap on this. Mm-hmm. The niche that you're in, which is interesting, the education-based niche, is something that is it's been extremely hard to get the education systems to develop because they're just so set in their ways. But at the same time, it's something that everybody's always going to need.
Yeah, they're always going to need it. And all of these educational institutions, they haven't evolved, like you were saying, like in over 100 plus years kind of thing. And they're starting to feel it. People aren't enrolling as much. People aren't going to class. Yeah, enrollment's down like across the board.
Johnny, can you look up the statistic, like enrollments, just overall, like say in Canada or in North America? I'm curious. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No. Enrollment, like general just engagement. Obviously, there's so many things now with ChatGPT and other things where students are cheating. And it's just like, students aren't getting what they used to get out of college. You used to, back, 40 years ago or 50 years ago, you'd go to college and you're kind of guaranteed a job when you come out, and you're no longer even guaranteed that if you get that degree. So there's so many factors that are stopping students from going to school or going to university or college. And yeah, they're starting to feel that. So it's like, how do they need to evolve in some way to keep these students?
And I guess, if they're not going to evolve, they're going to drown, right? Yeah. So that's really interesting. Will we see, big Ivy League companies, like education systems adapt to this VR and I guess, more technology. I mean, I interviewed people around Brock University last week about how they felt about ChatGPT.
Oh,
because you know I do the street interviews,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And half the people didn't even know what it was.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising.
I know. I was shocked. I was like, wait, you don't know like the fastest growing tech company in the world right now that's valued at like what, 30 billion? Like seriously?
Yeah.
And it just goes to show how out of loop people are on what's going on in the technology space.
Yeah.
How important is it to, one, understand it, and two, for education systems and students to adapt to using it as a tool? Do you feel it's important?
Yeah. Oh, definitely important. I would say like the schools, like, and individual professors, there's going to be people that adapt to it. There's going to be people that don't. That's just like what it is. Like I said, there's universities like Lindenwood University where it's like everyone needs a VR headset. There's other universities that haven't even looked at the technology yet. For a good example around here, we're just finishing up a project with Niagara College and Brock University, and starting in September next year, it will be a staggered rollout, but all students and faculty will be taking an EDI course in virtual reality, and that will be available through VR headset, but also through the LMS system on your like laptop. So like that is something where now all faculty can learn about equity, diversity, and inclusion and accessibility in a college university space.
So the one thing that I'm clicking for me about this is the hands-on learning experience that VR gives you that like I personally can't just sit at a computer. It doesn't work for me. Whereas VR, it's constant engagement. But is that let me ask you this, is that just the overall lack of the education system in general of not adapting to hands-on learning, or is that VR actually helping with hands-on learning?
It's both. Like it's, I think lots of schools have, especially like Brock as a great example, have started to adapt to this space or the experiential learning by having like better co-op programs, better internships, jobs available at the school and things along those lines. So like schools have been adapting, but this allows a school to adapt at scale. You build it once or you buy it once from us, and now all students can use that. You don't need a co-op placement for every student. You don't need to pay for everyone to go to a live fire training thing. It's just available for you.
So it's more cost effective. Now,
more cost effective, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we get to see a little bit more cost effective schooling. My mind just goes to, oh, well, they're just going to use that as a way to say, oh, now we added this so we can charge more. Plus inflation is, 6% last year alone.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. But it is interesting to see how we can kind of adapt. Do you feel that there's other ways that the education system might adapt? Or I would love to hear more about this de-escalation training and stuff, because that is really interesting as well. I mean, police is a hot topic right now. Mm-hmm. Do you support police? Do you not? I mean, I think most people do. I just think that there's difference of opinions in certain aspects.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, like me personally, I'm a big supporter of police. I have many family members and friends that are in the police or have been and retired. So I have a lot of respect for them. But obviously, yeah, there are tons of issues, and there are a lot of bad apples, and maybe more than just a couple bad apples in the space. So yeah, I think training is a big part of making sure that, one, people are ready when they enter the streets, but two, maybe we can weed out some of those bad apples ahead of time through the training. So yeah, the de-escalation training and kind of connects with ChatGPT as well, actually. So for the past year, we've been building this de-escalation training as well as witness interviews when you're like investigating a crime scene or at a traffic collision. And so right now it's a conversation tree. So basically how that works is you walk up to somebody and you can ask them, hello, how's your day going? X, Y, or Z options that you can ask them questions about. And depending on how you ask that question or which question you ask, they'll respond in a certain way. And that starts leading you down a path of this like conversation tree. So there's all these different branches that you can go down. So that's been working pretty well, and a lot of students have responded well to it. But where we're evolving next is adding in ChatGPT, and we've been doing research and development on it for over 6 months now. And that will soon allow a student, like a police officer, to go into a scenario and there is an avatar that they're actually having a full conversation. They're just talking, and then that avatar talks back to them, and you can go through this.
Okay, so I see an advancement there. But then my mind's going to go back to, I just like playing devil's advocate because you're doing a good job at standing up for yourself. Over 80% of communication is nonverbal. Mm-hmm. So it's pitch, it's your tone, it's how loud or how soft you talk, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How in the world can we get to a point? I mean, I can't even wrap my head around if AI can actually judge our tone, like how I speak to Siri, and if she says that, oh, you can calm down. I mean, can that ever happen?
Yeah, I think like I haven't done too much research in that area because we're just trying to kind of
like, how is that measurable?
Yeah, like we're just trying to like perfect the conversation so far, so I haven't looked into it too much. That said, like tone, like the tone side of things and like your pitch and volume, I think wouldn't be too difficult to like discern and do that. The really easy thing is the other nonverbal cues of like facial movement, eye movement, your body language and everything, because in VR, like the latest headset from Oculus or Meta
Sees your face.
is the Pro, and it has face tracker as well as eye tracking. So it like knows where you're looking. Some of the headsets, I don't know about that one specifically, can do pupil dilation, and that tells you like how excited or afraid you are and confidence levels and things along those lines. So yeah, there's a lot of data that can be tracked and then interpolated or
Now, there's a lot of people that don't want to adapt to this technology, mainly because they're like, oh, now they have more information on me, especially if now you can track your eyes.
Yep.
I mean, that's like an iris scan on every single person on the planet. Right?
Well, it's worse than that.
Is it, eh?
So there's studies or research papers out there about where this could head. And one of the main examples a lot of people use is insurance companies. And it's like if Meta was collecting all of this data and they shared it with an insurance company.
Or sold it.
Sold it to an insurance company. There is research out there that by the way that you walk in virtual reality, I can tell, or researchers can tell to a certain degree of accuracy, if you're going to have dementia or other like things happen to you, other possible diseases happen to you later in your life.
And of course, insurance companies are going to want to know.
Yeah. So then they're going to be writing.
They never want anybody with a claim.
Yeah. They're going to be like, oh, in 60 years, you're going to have dementia. So we're going to up your premiums. And so, yeah, big issues there. And that's why like we work with Meta a lot because they have the best headsets on the market right now for what we do at least. But the hope is that there is like an open standard, especially around privacy and data collection, where it's like you can give that data because it's great for training. Myself personally, a lot of the time, I don't mind sharing my data like today because I get better ads that I want to see and everything. So I don't mind those certain things, but like there needs to be that full control.
We have the same viewpoint on that. In the data at like the traction.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. And is them knowing my location, Snapchat or whatever it is, is that a bad thing? Yes, I guess. But at the same time, I want to know if there's a quesada around me, right? Yeah. And Google won't recommend a quesada that's 1.9 kilometers away if they don't know the location that I'm at that current moment.
Right. Exactly.
So you also have to put that into perspective too. So I don't know. I just, it's so, this is why I want to have you on, because we talk about these things that, okay, you don't like being tracked, but you like when they find the closest quesada or, burritos place to you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's really like, I think there will have to be different levels of being like, share it with everybody or like, share it only with fast food restaurants and fashion brands or something like that. And that's like, okay, share it with insurance companies if you want to be able to share it with insurance companies. Like,
yeah, because there's a lot of difference there.
Yes.
Right? I mean, there's a big one.
Yeah.
Meta, you said you work a lot with Meta. There's a lot of opinions on Meta. One of the hot takes that I wanted to hit you with was, is the metaverse a fad?
Yeah, definitely not a fad.
Why not?
Because I don't look at it I don't really look at it how Mark Zuckerberg maybe, partially I agree with him.
Okay, you look at it in a different way.
Yeah, but like I was saying earlier, I look at it as the next evolution of the internet. So it's not what the metaverse will be. It's like it's not if, it is what it will be, because it's just like the internet and technology is going to continue to evolve. So what is the next evolution of the internet? And I haven't asked many people this question, but like, I can't think of what other technology or innovations are happening that are going to change the internet. And maybe ChatGPT will like change how search engines work, but like, is that really the like biggest improvement? Like now I get my links a little quicker or the better links. There's that next jump that like we went from no internet to social media. And now what's that next jump? So the metaverse is just that. It's just taking what we have today and expanding it into the 3D world, where now we can access all of that in the 3D world and have much much more dynamic experiences.
So, Evan, let me ask you this. Would you say that social media was a benefit or negative to society?
That's a hard question to answer. I would say it's a benefit because I've benefited from it. I think like there's so many businesses that have been built on the back of social media and so many connections made, whether that be just through LinkedIn business connections or groups on Facebook that you're a part of like people that like to go camping or whatever that may be, where you can connect with people. I think it's connected a lot of people. Obviously there's all of the like fake news or like getting fake ads and things along those lines, or just people like not understanding what they're seeing and going down this deep hole of conspiracy theories and things along those lines. That's like an issue, but like, I don't know, in my mind, it's kind of like that is that person's choice in the end.
Yeah, it's like Gary Vee says it's self-discipline.
Yeah, like I go on TikTok and it's business and funny things and engaging things that I like. It's not conspiracy theories and people like swearing at each other and getting mad. So it's like, if you keep going down that, like the algorithm is built to keep you on the platform. That obviously that makes sense. So it's going to feed you things that you like. So if you keep looking at the things that you don't like, it's going to keep feeding you that stuff.
Interesting. Okay. And the reason that I wanted to ask that question was because some of the negatives that you look at that social media has done to our society, can we expect those negatives to exponentially increase if we enter this 3D world? Because now we went from the internet, which has we can both agree has completely destroyed our our attention spans. We wait 0.3 seconds for something to come up on Google. My parents waited a minute. Like that's a big jump.
And their parents waited weeks for letters to go back.
Literally. For books to come. Right? For envelopes, letters. So this 3D world, I don't know how we can get much faster. The scary part is we can get so realistic.
Yeah, the realism, it does also get faster in certain ways. So going back to the education side, to throw another stat at you, that same PwC study found that traditional learning versus VR learning, VR was 4 times faster to learn a skill than in the traditional.
So your 4-year course is cut down to a year.
Exactly. Like I kind of debate that one because in my mind, a lot of the time, students aren't getting the learning that they need in the traditional sense. So they're able to learn what they learned in the traditional sense 4 times faster, but now they have that 3 times extra time to really focus on the areas that they've been struggling on. So like, I play with that number, but that is the statistic that
you seem to look at things very from a 3D perspective. It's not very two-eyed, Evan.
Yeah, I try.
That's interesting. So I want to go back to building the company because this type of company has potential to be worth, $100+ million with where it's headed in the education space, mainly because of contracts that you can get and deals that you can close that are, 50, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, million, 2 million, 3 million, right? How do you even go about building a company like this from the get-go? Like, where does the idea stem from? Is it a lot of just failing and mistakes right from the get-go?
Yes.
Interesting. What would you say is your most notable mistake?
Oh, most notable mistake. I don't know. I don't really like keep track of many of the mistakes. I think maybe the most notable would have been like picking business partners at the start of, we had like another company before we started XpertVR, and like we're still great friends with the people that we founded that with, but we ended up having to break up that company because of disagreements. So like, I think if you're starting a company with multiple people, being on the same page from the start and making sure to deliberately like write that down and put kind of a plan together of where you want to head. But yeah, like beyond that, like for me, it was just a lot of failure about learning about technology and how things work. When we started the company, Drew and I, my business partner, we're both business grads. We were both still in business school. We had no technical skills. It was just like, we got a 360-degree video camera. We're going to go shoot these for marketing. And we were doing that for a bit. And we're like, oh, we could put these in a VR headset. Let's buy that. Then we had to learn how all that worked and setting all that up.
Are you serious? You had no...
Like, I worked a computer. I don't like I can. Yeah,
really?
I'm a business student.
Wow.
Yeah, like I still don't have any programming skills. I've jumped into Unity once or twice and done like the simplest things you could ever imagine, like literally the simplest things you can imagine. I've made a donut in 3D modeling software because that's like the first thing every 3D modeler does.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah. There's like a tutorial online, and it's like the donut that everyone follows that tutorial. And yeah. So I've done that. But other than that, and like I did that in the past like 2 years. So like other than that, no technical skills. So it was really like learning and failing kind of on how to build a business. And then we were finally at the point where we're like, okay, we won a pitch competition. We can hire on a co-op student for 4 months, who's now our CTO, Josh, hire him on for 4 months, and he'll have the technical skills to do what we've been telling some customers that we can do, even though we don't have those skills. We brought him on, he built it, delivered to the customer, they were happy, and then we were able to keep building from there.
I see. So it was really just like that building block, but you had no technical skills whatsoever.
No.
I mean, is that even a thought? Like, it just goes to show, I guess, you don't have to be perfect in your industry, be able to, you don't have to be a professional landscaper to own a landscaping business, I guess.
Yeah, like I think it's good, and I still like regret that I just don't have the time to learn some of these skills, because I think I could communicate better with our team if I knew some of the skills better. So like, I would say, like, if you're going into a landscaping business, probably good to like cut some lawns and do a couple things when you're starting that. But like in general, yeah, it's definitely like you don't need to have those skills. You can build a team around you that has all the skills that you're missing.
So then let me ask you this, because I find a lot of business owners are similar in that way. A lot of big business owners, where they understand their industry inside and out. Do they understand specifically how to do this or how to do that? No, because they're better at who, not how. Mm-hmm. What are a few traits that you find CEOs, founders have to have that they can enter any industry?
Yeah. Off the top of my head, first things that came to mind were confidence and optimism, and empathy. So I think you need to be confident in basically every scenario, even if like things crap's hitting the fan. I don't know if we can swear on this podcast.
Oh, you can definitely swear.
Okay, yeah. Shit hits the fan. You need to be confident that you're gonna get through that, and you can lead the company through that. And even not having those technical skills, like when we're going through a struggling time, I make sure, like, if our employees are staying later, I'm staying there alongside them. I might not say a word. I might not be able to help with anything. I'm just working on my own stuff, and I'm there if they need me, and can be like kind of that confident pillar, I guess. Hopefully, I don't know if they see me that way, but doing that. So there's that optimism, similar, like, you're gonna, I like to reference the Trough of Sorrow, if you've seen that. It's like a graphic, and it's basically like when you start a business, your happiness goes way up, and then as soon as like you actually start working in the business, it goes way down, and then you're kind of in this trough until you find like product market fit. And
how long did it take you to find product market fit?
5 years,
really?
6 years. Like
that's so
I would
interesting.
say we're like, we've only been around for 5.5 years. So like, we're just finding like actual, like our services, we found product market fit, and that's been like going well, but to like our actual product that we're like can scale a business with, we're just getting that locked in.
So what do you feel is going to make you that $100 million evaluation?
Yeah, it's building out these products. So we have our firefighting and police training products now that any fire department or school can talk to us, and they can license that per student. So having that is something that we don't have to rebuild every time and spend like 6 figures building, doing that, and just like have 95% margins or higher, kind of thing.
Right. Well, most are like 85, 90%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like having that is like what's really going to scale us up. We're focused in the emergency service space with the police and fire, and want to keep building those out over the next year. But then we want to start looking at other industries, because like I said, we're the experts at virtual reality, not everything else. So if we can bring in the content experts to support the development team, we can build in all kinds of different industries.
I see. Okay, that's interesting. I want to hit you with another hot take.
Yeah.
And it's actually a statistic that I wrote down. It's more AI based. So I know it's not necessarily your industry, but I know that you're very knowledgeable.
I've been looking into it. So
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So an article came out from the Globe and Mail, and they basically said that 94% of Canadian businesses, Canadian companies, say they have no plans to adopt software or hardware that includes AI in 2023.
Ridiculous.
Yeah? Why?
Every single business, like, I don't care how small of a mom and pop shop or anything you are, you should be experimenting with it right now, because
What can it help me with, Evan? That's maybe what 94% of people are asking.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been experimenting with ChatGPT a lot right now. I haven't paid a penny for it yet. There is a payment plan that just came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's $20 a month, so you get like unlimited access and don't like get throttled or anything along those lines.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I think it just came out last week. So I've been thinking about paying for that, but it's free for the most part right now, and I think will continue to be. And ChatGPT as an example, we've used it. I've written case studies, blog posts, blurbs inviting people to different events, emails, marketing strategies. Like, it's insane. Like, I went in there this past weekend, and I was like, pretend to be a product marketer for XpertVR. I need you to write a marketing strategy as their first like thing. And there's a 2-page marketing strategy it spits out. Obviously, it's not perfect, but then you say, refine this part to do this. Refines. Do this to do this. Blah, blah, blah.
So you got to learn how to work the brain.
Yeah, it's going to become a skill. And from all the podcasts I've been listening to that are talking about it, it's prompting AI is going to be a literal skill that people are probably going to hire for in the future, both on the ChatGPT type side of things, where you're writing prompts for it to write things for you. But then as well, there's like Midjourney or Dolly 2 and those types of things that make photos with AI. And
it's like social media management or something. Like
yeah. And like I've been messing around with Midjourney. It's like in Discord. It's so cool. And you just go in there and you say like whatever you want. Like imagine anything, describe it to it, and it will make a picture for you. A great example, I took a picture of one of our employees' cats, like meowing, but kind of like crying, and it looks like it's a roaring like lion kind of thing. And I was like, take this picture and make it look like the logo for MGM, like the lions like coming out. Boop, boop. And now we had like his cat as the MGM lion, like roaring and everything. And it was like seconds. So like, yeah, as a mom and pop shop, any like assistance you need in like any of that marketing stuff, but even just like asking it legal questions, accounting questions, it's going to give you the answer. I wouldn't necessarily trust that answer. I'd probably check with a financial advisor and stuff, but like those types of questions that you need a quick answer to as a business owner, you can get like pretty good answers that are better than Google. So.
I heard something about ChatGPT where it only takes from 2020 and beyond. Is that true?
Yeah.
So why doesn't it take from more?
So from what I understand, and this has been an issue, especially in like the photo area as well, is like ChatGPT, like they're a company, they can't just like take all of the internet because that's your content, that's my content, that's CNN's content and everything. They can't just like take all of that. I don't know how the legalities work for like the past 2-3 years of how they've been able to take all of that content in, but that's my understanding. And that's especially on the photo area, there's been a lot of problems where Midjourney or these other companies are training the AI. Like you need to feed it all this information to trade it. They are training it with stock photos from different stock photo sites. Yeah. So then you start seeing this like weird symbol in the bottom right. And that's like the trademark symbol that's coming from these sites. But because it's mashing all these photos together, it doesn't look like the trademark symbol. And so there's a couple of them being sued right now by some of the biggest like stock photo sites.
Wow. Yeah. Does this, you said prompting AI, does this pose a threat to society's, I'm trying to choose my words wisely, does prompting AI pose a threat to society's laziness? Or not threat, sorry, does it prompt assistance towards society's laziness, or threat our drive?
Like, yeah, so, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Making people more lazy. Yeah. Yes and no. Like, I think every technology that comes out, like, people are gonna lean on it and stop working and be like, okay, I'm gonna be lazy. But other people are gonna look at this, and for ChatGPT as a great example, me writing a case study for one of our projects, obviously I want to edit that, but it can take me like 2-3 hours to get the like starting draft done and like get all the information in there. So if I can get ChatGPT to put that whole thing together, and that's like the draft, and now I can go in with like my knowledge of the project, my creativity, my like personal creativity, then I can edit it into something that's really amazing. So it speeds up that process of creativity where you don't need to do all the tedious tasks. So if you're already a person that's excited about your job, you're not a lazy person, this is just going to speed you up so you can spend greater majority of your day being creative instead of doing tedious tasks.
I see. So it's just going to optimize our time more.
At least that's how I've seen it working for me and how I hope that it will work for others. Yeah.
The one thing I was really curious about your business, and time has flown with this episode, but
I do have one topic that we might want to dive into.
Go for it.
No. If you
go for it.
Go for it. Okay.
What is it?
I think you might just be interested. So actually this weekend, our new marketing strategy kind of begins. So this weekend I am purchasing a short bus, so like a short school bus that goes around to pick up kids. One of the ones with like the handicap door on the back. And I'm renovating it into 1, a living space, but 2 and 3, a podcast studio and a VR demo space. And starting in July, I will be driving through Ontario into Manitoba, then across Canada, maybe up to the Yukon, down the West Coast into the States, and then throughout the States.
No way.
Going school to school, demoing VR, putting people on a podcast, and yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I thought you'd be interested in that. So.
That is really interesting.
Yeah.
Where does that idea stem from?
Yeah, so it's for multiple years now, I've kind of been interested in the van life space. You know Dalton, right? Dalton Steele.
Dalton does it, right?
So he didn't, but he bought a van. He started renovating it, and I think he's still playing with the idea.
Well, he's a videographer too, so I mean, he can
videographer.
get business anywhere.
Yeah, he's trying to like maintain business around here, but he likes to go climbing. So yeah, so I was living with him when he bought the van, so that kind of was one partial inspiration. But I just love watching those videos on TikTok and YouTube, and so I was kind of like, well, this is kind of the perfect time for me to like, we're all remote. I can get a Starlink, like SpaceX satellite set up and have internet anywhere. So I can just work on the road. And so I was like, oh, I'm just going to go travel. And then I was talking to Drew more and more about it. And I was like, well, I could stop at schools when I'm going there. It would be cool to have like a podcast studio and like VR demo space in the back. Might as well like build that. And now that's where the idea is.
Oh my God. Yeah. So is this a ploy to try to grow XpertVR internationally, or not internationally, but like nationally?
Yeah, internationally, like going into the States, it's definitely kind of a ploy there. I think our main goal, or main 2 goals, is one, to recognize all of the different professors and deans and faculty across Canada and across the States that are already exploring virtual reality and giving them a voice of like, what are they doing and how is it being successful, so other educators can work alongside them and copy what's being successful. And then number 2 was that co-op project that I mentioned at the start. We want to bring these schools together. So by going in person and talking about what we're trying to do and changing the education system and involving them in that conversation, that's a big part of it as well.
I see. Okay. Well, we'll have to follow along your journey with that one.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's really fascinating.
Yeah, it'll be posted on the XpertVR social medias, but I'll also be doing a personal TikTok
I was going to say, well, okay, you know what? I've got one more question for you.
All right, yeah.
And it's, we do a series where we ask people at the end of the episode what question they want to ask the next guest without knowing who the next guest is. So your question from Philip Terlecki, who is owner of Creatos Bureau, and he does super high-end commercials for like big car brands and insurance companies and whatnot. Cool. He asks, if you could be a lead singer in any band, what band would it be and why?
I wouldn't want to sing. I don't. My favorite band, like always, has been the Beatles. Obviously,
really?
They're not around anymore. Obviously, Ringo and Paul are still around, but yeah, the Beatles is a band. I don't know. Being involved, Come Together is my favorite song. So, like, hey, that'd be really cool. I guess just to sing alongside them, even though I don't enjoy singing particularly. But, yeah.
I love it. And to continue on the trend, what is a question that you have for the next guest? Not to be selfish, but like when you hear the term metaverse, what comes to mind? Ooh, hear the term meta, what comes to mind? I like that. So for that, where does that stem from for you? Just in general, you want to know people's opinions on? Yeah, it's there's so many different opinions, even from people in the industry, of what is the metaverse and what are all the different technologies that interact. And I think there's so many all those technologies are so different, and everyone's kind of hearing about ChatGPT and blockchain and VR and AR and the metaverse. And it's like, in my mind, all of those things kind of come together, but I'm kind of curious of what other people are thinking right now. I love it. Yeah. Guys, this is Evan Sitler.
Bates
coming on the podcast, and owner of XpertVR, XpertVR. He's wearing the shirt right now, but if you're listening, you can check him out. Literally just search up XpertVR or just search up his name on LinkedIn. He's a really active guy and shares a lot of cool things on LinkedIn. So make sure you check it out. Evan, thanks for joining us, brother.
Sam, thank you so much for having me. It's so cool to see this studio.
It was a pleasure.
It's been amazing.
For anybody listening, I actually interviewed Evan on my last podcast, my Mealy Media podcast, and that was 3.5 years ago. Oh my God, it's been such a long time. When I was in my basement. Yeah, I love it.
Love it.
Man, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. But also, importantly, check out our last video we did with Evan McDonald. You're really going to like that interview. I think it's Evan. Or maybe it's another one. I don't know. But Evan McDonald's a great interview. Make sure to check it out. And yeah, leave a comment down below. Any questions you want us to ask the next golden guest like Evan himself. Thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next episode.